Don't you want it? 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 You lose your little mind. My Deadlights.
Welcome to the Deadlight Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Johnston.
Hello, and I'm your co-host, Leslie, bringing you your weekly dose of horror.
And sometimes comedy.
Oh, like today.
And sometimes comedy like today.
And sometimes really fucked up things.
True. We'll get we got the whole spectrum here.
Oh, absolutely.
We're going to get it. But today was a nice little break from that really fucked up stuff.
Yeah.
To watch a movie that I've just always, from as long as I can remember, just always remember loving this movie.
Yeah. This is my second time watching
Cool.
this movie.
Nice.
But I absolutely admire Gene Wilder.
Yes.
I love him. It's just, I don't know.
R.I.P. for sure.
R.I.P. man.
Because he was a fantastic performer, and in everything that I can remember him in, he's such a, first of all, unique looking person, and also such a talented comedic actor.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's not trying.
Exactly. It's and that's the magic of acting, is that you're able to work with who you are and what you have. And it's, when you think of Gene Wilder, you think of the moments where he then escalates and then he's like shouting. That is him.
Oh yeah. He's so good at going from even keel, very subdued, to being almost manic, and I'm even thinking in Willy Wonka.
Yes.
Because he's like obviously this fantastical candy maker, but then there's that scene where he's in the boat and he's screaming about whatever. And that's kind of scary too.
There's two scenes in Willy Wonka that freaking every time it gets to me, but because of his performance, where they're in the boat and it's not even like him shouting yet, it's just him being like super crazy, and you're like, holy shit, what kind of movie did we get into? And then like after that, there's nothing scary anymore. He has very pretty eyes, and for the black and white, because I don't remember him having mascara and like eyeliner in Willy Wonka, but it might have been a choice. Yeah. He definitely had it. Oh, which movie are we watching?
I guess we should probably get to that. So the Gene Wilder movie that we just watched is Young Frankenstein from 1974, directed by Mel Brooks, written by Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks. An American grandson of the infamous scientist, struggling to prove that his grandfather was not as insane as people believe, is invited to Transylvania, where he discovers the process that reanimates a dead body. People might ask, why would you put this on the list in the bucket of
horror and thriller?
I mean, I think that, yes, it's a comedy for sure. First and foremost, no doubt about that. But also, it is a monster movie. It is following the form of Frankenstein, which everyone would agree is a monster movie. Yeah. And this is a monster movie.
It's a classic monster.
It's a classic monster movie.
Yeah.
And I think that what's kind of nice, and I've never really noticed it, because I've never been watching this movie with a critical eye before. I've always just watched it to enjoy it. But I'm glad I did, because this movie has like a genuine message at the end of seeing the beauty inside of people. It's the classic Frankenstein story, and then they really bring home the fact of seeing people more than just what they are. And so it was actually ended up being like a really nice message at the end within this like hilarious movie. And so can you criticize me for putting it on? Yes, but also this is my podcast, so deal with it.
It's fun to have these kind of very selective kind of like comedic movies throughout, just because we can't be seeing fucked up shit all the time.
Give us a break. I remember when I first watched it, I actually thought that it was an old black and white movie, like that had to be in black and white, an old monster movie, because this movie also sticks with those tropes very well.
Absolutely.
It could definitely be mistaken as a 1930s film.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this could be released, like, after the first Frankenstein came out or something. But they really do a good job of, between, obviously, the black and white and how it's shot. It's very traditionally shot, like those old horror movies, almost shot more like a play with these long tracking shots.
Oh, yeah. That's a really beautiful way to say it. That, yeah, these shots are very theatrical.
Mm-hmm. Because each scene feels like we're in a setting. And the camera's moving in a way where it's a lot of continuous shots. And that was a choice, obviously, Mel Brooks made because he wanted to emulate those films. And those are probably the movies that he was watching when he was growing up, wanting to become a filmmaker. So this whole thing is just a big homage to not only Frankenstein, but all the classic Universal monster movies.
And I think this movie is a really good one to have in the bucket to just kind of, make references to, the way that things were filmed back in the day.
Yeah, for sure. From the top.
From the top, make it drop.
Make it drop. From the top.
Wet-ass pussy.
Wet-ass pussy. From the top, we immediately get, boom, the title card, Young Frankenstein.
Yep.
With the...
wonderful.
Wonderful. And it opens in a very classic movie way of just music and credits. Almost every... Because, we watched The Invisible Man before.
Oh, yes.
It was just credits and music at the beginning.
For a while.
Just words.
Yeah. We're like going close up to a window of the castle.
Going to the castle, and then once we get into the castle, we're going from
like the window to
it starts on a ticking clock.
Oh, right.
And then goes down to the fireplace, and then we track over to the coffin, which I can get a little meta with this of like what each of those things mean because
about to
because like the clock is like obviously time. Time is a big thing because it's almost like what Frankenstein in general is doing is trying to stop time or extend your time, your life. That's the ultimate goal of what his grandfather and what young Frankenstein does in this movie too is essentially trying to stop time, stop your time of death. And then we go to the fire, which is classically the Frankenstein monster's weakness. That's the thing that can defeat the monster. And then we go to the coffin, which is a symbol of death. And that is, like, these things will lead you to, ultimately, Baron von Frankenstein in his coffin.
And, like, don't they say that fire is the creation to life?
It's kind of like almost a symbol of like your soul, like the fire within you.
But then to also to make it even more, like we use fire to survive. We cook with it, we get warm with it. So it's ironic for a creature that was brought to life for that to be its weakness. But yes, absolutely. I don't think it's meta. I think it's definitely what they were trying to accomplish. The time is, even we can see it as them, Frankenstein going back to time, like going back in time and doing what his grandfather tried to do.
Nice. And then it eventually reveals that it is Baron von Frankenstein. Yeah, but he's holding the little box. And
he's like, give it.
He doesn't want to let go. No, it's mine. He finally grabs it out of the freaking skeleton's hand.
Oh, goodness. That would have scared me.
Yeah.
That would have terrified me.
Yeah. I would have sent someone else in. I think me mostly for the smell. I don't want to smell that.
No.
Now we're introduced to... what is his name? I kept writing down Young Frankenstein.
Frankenstein. Igor would...
Frobruca.
Frobruca.
His name is Friedrich Frankenstein, as he calls himself.
Frankenstein.
Because he really wants to separate himself from his past.
His past.
He That's a theme throughout the whole movie. Is he
Yeah.
does not want to be referred to or remembered as the grandson of the great Victor Frankenstein, the crazy mad scientist.
Because he's crazy and he is an actual scientist.
Yes.
You know.
And he's a brain scientist. He's like a neurologist.
A neurologist.
And he's like a brain surgeon. And he's teaching this class about the brain. And
the blangada.
Yeah, saying a lot of just technical terms, just seeming, and he's also just like drawing an ice cream cone on the chalkboard. That's what it looked like.
No, it was a brain.
Sure, right. It looked like an ice cream cone.
He didn't have the crisscross, but like
yeah, it's like a waffle cone.
I didn't put that together.
That brain looks delicious.
Bleh.
Yummy.
And then we keep getting interrupted by this fucking smart ass motherfucker in the front of the class.
Isn't it true?
Aren't you like a little bit curious?
He like pretty much gives the whole backstory. Aren't you the grandson of the famed Victor von? And he just like tells the entire backstory. Like, yes, I am.
We know.
And immediately, my grandfather was crazy. All this kind of stuff.
Cuckoo. Called him cuckoo. I don't know why, but like any usage of cuckoo and poo poo and like all those
doo
doo. I'm a child and it makes me laugh.
Well, it's also he's like a scientist. Like it's kind of funny. He's using doo doo. Like,
doo doo.
Yeah, he's like a grown man saying doo doo.
And he doesn't want to admit it, or I don't know, like using those kind of like terminology kind of lessons and doesn't have you really admit, you know. And later on he did, but like he's like, yeah, he's famous cuckoo.
Yeah, but the student just keeps pushing him, and
to the point of him
freaking out,
stabbing himself with a scalpel.
Class dismissed.
He like crosses his legs and hides. Yes. There's this one student that stood up and he was like, yes. Have you ever stood up for your professor?
Never. I would never clap at the end of class. I'd be like, thank God. If anything, clapped me because of me getting out of there.
Yeah, you literally already have your like stuff in your.
All right, bye.
Thank you, bye.
Yes, summer vacay. I mean, that would be the only reason to clap.
Yes.
But and that's pretty much when we get also this guy that took the box coming up to him and presenting him the box and telling him that his grandfather's will. They found his grandfather's will, and he's essentially given him his castle. There's really no hesitation. He's given you his castle, and then we go to him. Leaving to go to the castle.
Was he just supposed to? Because we never really fully get a whole like, I need to go to just see if I even want it or to like sell it. He just literally goes because it was given to him. And
do you think he's? I mean, obviously, in this first scene, we very overtly established that he does not want to be associated with Frankenstein. But deep down, the Frankenstein blood is still in him, and that desire that maybe his grandfather had is somewhat in him. That maybe he doesn't believe fully what he's saying about his grandfather's work being doo-doo. Maybe he is a little curious. This next scene is where we meet his fiancée, Elizabeth, for the first time. And she is...
she's phenomenal.
Yeah, she's really good. She is perfect in this part of, like... They're trying to have this, like, sentimental goodbye, but, like, every time he, like, goes to, like, kiss her... Like, oh, not the lips. Not the lipstick.
I'm going to that party. And I don't want to, smudge my lipstick. No, my hands.
Yeah, tries to grab her hands. The nails. Tries to like caress her. The hair. Yeah.
And then she turns around and she's like, oh, you're so corrigible. And like hugs her. And what did she say the fabric was? I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
But she was like, it wrinkles so easily.
And then they settle on.
A fucking. And they're set to fucking marry.
Yes, they're fiancés, and also I don't know if they say this in this scene, but we find out later that she's his financier too. She's the one that's been giving him all the money.
Oh, true, because her dad is
scientists.
rich.
Yeah.
She's set to have sex after they marry.
Right.
You know, but she's so into herself, too,
Mm-hmm.
that you're like, oh, she's just, like, kind of dragging him along. But I think it goes both ways. I think they're only with each other because of their status. Like,
Yeah.
he is a scientist, and,
Yeah,
like,
wow.
you know, wow, what a fucking title. And then you're some person's rich daughter, which is great.
This seems natural. This seems like this is what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be together. And also that's kind of, it's almost like poking fun at old movies that are, and they're serious about this.
Yeah.
Like, this is seriously what they're pushing, is like, these two people should be together because she's a rich daughter and he's a man of status. And they do usually end up together at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But
it doesn't work.
it's just ridiculous.
It's
just absolutely
hilarious.
It's hilarious. And she's playing that part. She's playing the part. Her performance is like the performance of someone in the 1930s.
Mm-hmm.
And she's doing it so well.
She's doing it fantastic.
Yeah.
I would hate to have that person as a partner.
Yeah. Because can you remember some of those women in The Invisible Man? That they seem just like...
But also,
what the fuck?
Eyes Without a Face, or Face Without Eyes.
Eyes Without a Face.
Eyes Without a Face.
Yeah, you got it.
They're just so fucking dramatic, you know, and she did that. It was fantastic.
And this scene is pretty much the only scene that we have of her, and then for a majority of the movie, she's gone.
She doesn't come back until the end.
Yeah, she's gone.
Oh, but memorable.
Her parts are great. Yeah.
Memorable.
Her short performance is great.
Ugh. And
then he arrives at the Transylvanian station. Excuse me, boy. Is this the station Transylvania?
Yeah. You want me to shine your shoes? That was not the accent, but
it was close though. Honestly, it was very close. Yeah. Okay.
No,
thank you. And then we get he's waiting at the station, and we get our first introduction to Igor. It's actually this really like you hear this like clunk drag.
Drag. And you're like, where's
drag.
that coming from? Because all you see is just smoke. Just like...
It's like a tense moment, actually. And then it ends with, hello. And it's just a creepy close-up of Igor. These bulgy-ass eyes.
Oh, my God. And then he introduces himself. I'm Frederick.
Frankenstein. Are you putting me on?
No. That's how you pronounce? That's how I
pronounce?
Is
it? Oh, do you also say Frodrick?
Frodrick? No.
No, because it's Friedrich. It's Friedrich Frankenstein.
But why not Frodrick? I'll call you Frodrick from now on.
And what's your name?
Isn't it? Oh, is your name Igor? No, it's Igor. Well, I was told that it was Igor.
Well, that was my question the whole time. Like, is his name actually Igor? Because it kind of seems like he's fucking with them.
Oh, yeah. His name is actually Igor.
Are you putting me on? And then he calls him Frodrick for the rest of the movie, too.
Hilarious.
He's going back and forth between, like, doing the, like, traditional, like, Igor of, like, being, like, the subservient guy, but he's also, like, just really bad at it. Like, he's just, like, constantly putting off work or just like...
Yeah, because in that moment of them introducing themselves, he's like, freaking Frodrick was like, you know, I'm a absolute fantastic surgeon. I can fix that hump. What hump? He's like, well... And then at one point he like smacks it and it's like sounds empty.
It sounds like a drum. Dong.
And then but he's like, what?
What hump?
What hump?
And then switching sides too throughout the movie. Was it over there? What hump?
No. It switches like 3 different times.
He just gives up.
Okay. And I love we know exactly what he's talking about, even when he doesn't like say anything anymore. Yes. And he's like and he does that hand gesture carried throughout the whole joke.
Yeah. these callbacks
Remind-
are great, and
So...
there's jokes pretty much going on at every single moment, and that's what's nice about this movie is there's always something to look at and laugh at.
I think that's another reason why this comedy has been able to survive, and it's still relevant. You are able to laugh at every single joke because callbacks are so funny when it's intentional and brought to those moments where...
Well, and it's... And I don't want to call it simple comedy because that makes it sound easy. It's not easy to do, but these simple moments of... Especially the stuff between Igor and Frobruca, there's just these like little things that are always happening. Like he's like, "Let me get your bags," and then he picks up the smaller bag that's like lighter. It's
and he's like, "Okay, bye."
And if he has to pick up the, it's like these little things are always going on, and I love in the next scene too when he's again talking like the traditional like their wolf, their castle. And he's like, "Why are you talking like that?"
Yeah, he's
I
like,
thought you wanted me to talk like that.
Oh.
No.
Because he was like werewolf, and he's like, their wolf, their castle.
I actually didn't get that.
Yeah.
Werewolf, werewolf.
Werewolf.
Okay, nice. And they're off to the castle, and this is also the moment where we meet the laboratory assistant.
Oh my
Inga.
god! Yeah, she gets hit by a fucking suitcase.
Oh!
Oof! Hello.
Would you like a roll in the hay?
Hello. Roll in the hay. Roll in the hay. Why?
And again, her character, I think she's really good too because her character is just like obviously very dim and ditzy.
A little bit ditzy.
And that's exactly how these characters would be played in the 1930s or whatever.
Because also a lot of blonde women were used to portray these characters of them being just a little bit off. You know, they're not the most brilliant, but they're attractive. And they're there. They're willing to do everything that the man wants.
True. What's nice about her, and maybe what's different than probably how these women were portrayed in the 1930s, is that she, no matter what happened, like with the failures, she's always supporting him, and she's always the one that's picking him back up. She's really strong and like essentially his rock through this whole movie, because he needs it. He's like going crazy, and she's the one who's keeping it sane the whole time. She is one of the most sane characters of the entire movie, which is maybe not how a blonde female would be portrayed.
Yes.
In the 1930s.
Agreed. We get introduced to the character of
Frobruca. Frobruca. Which again,
she gets so sad that the that the horses are always just scared of her. I guess.
She kind of takes it personally.
She does. She's like,
sorry, Frobruca.
Oh God.
And she takes us through the castle with her
unlit candle.
Candles. So close to the candles. The stairs can be treacherous. Tossing and turning.
Tossing and turning.
No. I am not a Frankenstein.
I'm not a Frankenstein.
There's
Destiny!
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 Destiny! It is destiny.
I wonder if that was like a song during the 70s.
Yeah, I didn't recognize it, but
I didn't either, but I think it must have been a callback to a very famous song.
Yeah, he's just like
people knew.
Going crazy in his sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, again, driving home the fact he does not want to be a Frankenstein, but his subconscious is screaming.
And also his the portrait of his grandfather keeps looking at him.
That's true. We keep cutting back to this portrait, which is changing every time. Reminding us that his grandfather's always there.
He's always there.
And the violin is also going, that song is going on in the background too. So he does have Frankenstein blood within him. And that song, for some reason, they found this tune that kind of controls.
Yeah. It seems
them.
very like hypnotic
Mm-hmm.
but soothing
Mm-hmm.
and beautiful. Yeah.
Well, and in this movie too, I think it's used for good, really. You know, it's the thing that the music is the thing that ultimately soothes the monster, and saves them in multiple situations. So it's interesting that they keep going back to this violin, the same song, this soothing hypnosis kind of thing. Um, and it's just interesting that that's the choice. You know, I really like it because I love that violin song that they keep playing
I
too.
like violins a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really nice instrument.
Mm-hmm. And I just wonder if there's like a reference to violins in the original Frankenstein, or if this was just a choice that they made.
I mean, I think violins in general is a old, like, instrument.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and definitely, I'm sure they were using violins in that way in old horror movies too.
Yes, because I think that in general, besides the harp, is used to lure and kind of create this hypnotic kind of like music.
Yeah.
Because I can't think of the guitar being something. You can definitely use it for that sense, but it's more whimsical as opposed to like, I don't know, just.
It's almost like the violin has this kind of like flow to it. A note can never stop, you know, because you can keep going back and forth on the heart or on the string and just keep it going and putting you into this like kind of rhythmic hypnosis.
Yeah.
And it's throughout the whole movie and used multiple times. Okay, now thinking about it, here we go. Frobruca and Frankenstein, you know, the whole thing in general is trying to control people with science.
Yeah.
Whereas this is music, art, trying to soothe and somewhat control people through art and tame them through art rather than control them with science, you know? This is a movie about a scientist, very, you know, numbers, analytical, you know, it's all very right brain, you know? It's the thing that comes from the creativity and the art side that is the thing that eventually is what soothes that.
That's
and
wonderful.
It's kind of like a merriment of them working together. Yeah, this movie. You know,
that's wonderful.
This movie,
I like that.
Yeah,
I haven't thought about it that way.
Yeah. I mean, it's subtle, and maybe that's not what they're going for. Maybe we're just grasping at straws, but it seems intentional. And because they use it so much, it had to be a discussion that the filmmakers had to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why are we using this violin?
Yeah.
You know?
What is the point of the violin?
Yeah.
You know?
And so they follow the violin.
They do. After
Inga wakes Frobruca up, and they hear it behind the bookcase.
He's like, he wakes up, he gets woken up by her, and she's like, you've been having a nightmare, or however she pronounces it. And he was like, do you hear the violin music? And she's like, yeah, it's been playing. I think it's coming from that bookshelf.
From behind the bookcase. From behind the bookcase.
And then he goes to one, and she goes to one, and then that's when he's like, it's coming louder from over here.
They're kind of just like following it along the wall.
And they have that scene, the wall changing.
Spinning around. Just
oh, God.
Classic physical
Hilarious.
comedy. Good stuff. Good
slapstick shit.
Yeah. But they eventually get it open.
Absolutely.
After a trial and error of the candle going in and out.
Oh, yeah. What a movement.
Yeah. You know, that's what solves it.
Yep, that's what solves everything.
They go down, and they are like creeping through like this very dark. I actually don't even know what that front room is that they find, because they're like, they open it up and they're like following along with the skulls that are getting more and more alive. 3
years dead, 2 years dead, 6 months dead, freshly dead.
Hi, Igor, Frobruca.
Yeah.
And it eventually takes them to the laboratory. We have finally seen the old laboratory. We get this really cool tracking shot around the laboratory, and we're hearing the sound effects of the old Frankenstein happening as we're kind of panning around. And That's when I wrote down the production design of this movie is awesome.
Absolutely.
Which there's been moments already where we've seen really cool production design, but this is the first time I was like, wow.
This set is incredible.
Yeah. It looks fun.
It looked really cool
Mm-hmm.
to be the person to be able to like make these things.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing.
The cobwebs everywhere.
Yeah.
They looked real. Even though there were a lot of them, and it seemed like that was a massive spider,
Mm-hmm.
it was still really cool.
And for those actors to be able to have such large spaces to perform and play in
Mm-hmm.
just makes it seem like everything would be so much more immersive for them. And that's kind of what you got out of these old Hollywood movies. They would build these massive sets and allow these actors to the room and the freedom to just use the space. And there's so many scenes where they're in large rooms and the sets are massive, and it just seems like so much fun for the actors to be able to perform
Mm-hmm.
and just really go be immersed in the world.
So they follow the music.
They continue following the music through back. There's another door. They've gone through fucking 4 doors at this point.
There's light
Going
coming
down,
from
down.
that door.
Could be dangerous. You go first.
Yeah.
And they go in there, and the person who was ever there has just left. They find the violin sitting on the table. Igor touches it. It's still warm.
It's still warm to the touch.
Still warm. And there's still like a lit cigar, and
They found
the private library.
Yeah, the private library.
They figured out it's his private library.
And he like goes around naming things as to how it's the private library, and then they get to the book on the table. How I Did It.
How I Did It by Victor Frankenstein. Okay.
So hilarious.
So good. So good. And he starts reading it. It kind of transitioned to him like almost at the end of the book. He is like full in now, and he realizes that it could work. And this is kind of when he changes. This is when
Yes.
And this is after he's descended down through these 4 freaking doors into this private library, and now he's like gonna start descending into somewhat madness.
Oh.
You know,
Oh.
into being obsessed with creating life after death. This is very old classic Frankenstein. They gotta go get a body.
They gotta go get a body.
Freshly killed.
Do we know why he got hanged?
No. He just got hung.
Wouldn't we be afraid to animate somebody?
Well, the whole idea is that they're going to get the smart brain. So that was just the body. That was just the body.
That smart brain wasn't that person's brain.
Correct.
Who is that smart person's brain?
They just kind of establish him as a really smart, I think they say he's a doctor or something.
Okay.
He's not a real person.
H. Delbruck.
H. Delbruck. Yeah. Hans Delbruck.
Hans?
They just establish that he's like a scientist or something.
Okay.
And so this is just like the vessel. You know, this is just the body.
Right.
They ended up...
He's perfect. He's big.
He's big, yeah. So they dig him up and put him in the cart.
Well, as they're digging them up,
yeah,
they lift it up, and he was like, well, that wasn't too bad, or something like
He's
that.
He's like, oh, God, this is terrible.
This is terrible. Well, it could be worse. It could be raining. Boom. Rain. Which is a trope, too, when, doom is about to set. It starts raining.
Mm-hmm.
I started laughing so hard because the first time that I saw this, it didn't click until this time around, where I'm like, they're literally parading this body.
They're not doing a great job of hiding this.
No.
At all. Not at all.
It looks like a coffin.
Yeah. Yeah, and they just end up losing control and just spills the coffin everywhere, cracks it open. The hand falls out.
The hand falls out.
And then, of course, who comes around the corner? Your cop.
The little cop.
A little cop. And I love, he walks up and says, "You need a hand?"
And he's like, "Oh, no, thank you.
No,
I already have one."
The dead body's hand.
Just like this.
Doing one of those classic, like...
Yeah. And then, and then they They just keep saying hand jokes.
It's all everything that has to do with a hand.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You got this all in hand? Yep.
Yep, absolutely. Oh, your hand is cold. You need a brandy.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yes, And we go to the brain donor center. What was that?
I don't know, but it said after 5 p.m. Just
slide brain in slot
on indoor,
yes.
And that's how he gets in because there's this huge fucking hole slot thing that he could just like insert his arm and open the door.
Gets in pretty easily. It's pretty easy to break into the brain donor center or wherever this is.
Yeah.
And classic Igor fashion, he's not very good at this stuff.
Absolutely not.
He gets the right brain. He matches it. He gets Hans Brooks, found it, and he scares himself.
There's lightning, and then which we know he's already afraid of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because when they first were arriving, to the castle, he was afraid of them. Mm-hmm. But yeah. Drops the brain, it fucking splits and shatters.
Hans Delbruck brain, no good no more.
No bueno.
Well, just take the one right next to it. That's probably fine.
Abby Normal.
She sounds cool.
Absolutely.
She sounds like a cool person. She's
the
probably
brain is
fine.
there for a reason.
Yeah, they wouldn't just put that there.
No.
Even though it says do not use under any circumstances. But besides that,
how would you use an abnormal brain
to study it? There's like this whole thing of like studying serial killers' brains and shit, like to see how it's like made up. So,
but like, wouldn't you want to then?
I would say like maybe don't put it right next to like the genius's brain. Just like maybe have two separate shelves.
Yeah,
like smart brains on this one.
Different shelves.
Different shelves. Yeah,
absolutely.
Now, pretty much the classic Frankenstein scene.
Fucking big ass forehead. A zipper. I don't know why a zipper.
Zipper neck. Zipper.
What are they going to do with the zipper?
Stitches, because his brain has just been inserted. And this is the time to wake up the monster. And he's very indulging in that, like, Frankenstein, making this big speech about reanimating life and taking control of the power.
Classic. Yeah,
it's classic.
Classic.
And he's really feeling
mad scientist, godlike person.
Yeah, I wrote down egotistical.
Egotistical.
Because it's all about him.
It is all about him.
It's about him creating life and being a god, being more than human.
It is very interesting because, just by how life is actually created, we need both, a sperm and an egg to make a life. Mm-hmm. And women are the ones that carry the baby. So for him to be creating, life.
Yeah. And that's kind of a thing I think that probably goes back to the original Frankenstein too, is like, that's also a man. Mm-hmm. A man, like you said, can't actually create life. But this is something, it's that classic science trying to control and make something happen that is against the laws of nature.
Because he finds the creature beautiful.
He does. Because he has that interesting moment of saying, we see his face, the monster's face for the first time. Inga says he's hideous. Mm-hmm. And then he goes, he's beautiful. And he's mine.
He's mine. They descend, and we don't see any life.
No signs of life.
Starts hitting him on the chest.
Yeah. And he kind of just, there's no heartbeat, and he kind of just like, well, science is about accepting failures with quiet dignity. And
science teaches us to celebrate our failures as well as our successes.
Yeah.
With
quiet dignity and grace.
And grace. And then they start walking away.
You son of a bitch! I'm gonna get you for this!
I'm gonna kill you! I'm gonna kill you! No!
Don't touch him, doctor! Don't touch him!
I just
starts crying.
Yeah. Why? Why did you do this to me?
Mommy! So
Oh no, we go
We
to
go-
the town.
yes, this
Hall.
this is the first time that we get introduced to this idea that the villagers are now meeting because they know that a Frankenstein is back, and they've seen what the Frankensteins have done before, and they don't want a repeat of any of that. So
Yeah.
there's this
The
town
Frankenstein
meeting.
said his blood, like
Yeah,
them going crazy.
yeah. There's this town meeting, and the villagers want to riot immediately. They're just like, let's get them. Classic villagers.
Yes.
But the town hall, like, heads of the committee are like, hold on, I will not have this turn into a riot. And then that's when we're introduced to Inspector Kemp.
Kemp.
Yeah, who is a physical specimen, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
He's got this fucking wooden arm that he's got to, like, crick and move around and...
Like, cigarette. Insert into...
It's I mean, his character is
fucking
all about
great.
physical comedy, and he's doing such a good job of. He commits to it. It's like every single thing is like that arm. He has to move every single motion, and then he has like an eye patch that he then puts a monocle over the eye patch, and he has this crazy, crazy accent that no one can understand.
What?
What?
And then he actually just like, you know,
He kind of drops the accent.
yeah,
a
he
little
drops
bit.
the accent, which is like a break in his character. And then he's like, kind of in a clearer voice, like, this is what I said. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh,
Just kids. Yes.
God,
He's just like,
putting on this fucking accent.
well, and we've talked about so many times like the law enforcement in almost all horror movies, not only
Useless.
old horror movies, but in modern horror movies as well. Typically useless and typically just fumbling idiots. And this guy is first of all just a wacky physical person, but he's also
robotic.
he's kind of like a robot, a robot of the law,
pirate.
but is also like he's a cheater. Like he's like cheats in the game of Dark Slater, and like he's pretty dumb.
He's dumb.
He's just a useless another useless law
Cop.
enforcement character. Yeah, just kind of another one of these village idiots. But he does say, "All right, before we start rioting, we got to make sure that he is crazy, like his grandfather. We got to give him the benefit of the doubt. But I'll go up there and make
I'll
sure
check it out."
that everything's all right." Frobruca is super sad.
He's so sad. He's like, oh, why didn't it work? He's like, Zagda, you haven't touched your food.
There, I touched it. Happy. He's such a little boy move.
I
Such a tiny,
love it.
he's such a baby.
It cracked me up. And they rush over and
He's
guess
alive.
who's alive?
It's
You're
alive.
alive.
He does the classic. It's alive.
Classic.
Yep, and I mean, like we've said, he's just so good at getting to like level 11, and it's just like it's almost like that line was made for him.
Absolutely.
It's a classic
With his
line.
hair.
Yeah, it's a classic line, but he's like, it's alive. He's like, I'm gonna release you because at this point he still thinks that Hans Delbruck's very smart brain is in there.
Yeah.
So he releases
Very
him,
smart.
and very slowly, it's like almost like baby's first steps.
Mm-hmm.
He gets him
He's
up.
teaching him how to,
He's like,
to walk.
Gonna walk, and he's like
The
he's
very
huge.
classic
Yeah.
Frankenstein movements.
And he's
So.
huge. He's massive,
He's massive.
standing over these people. But he's just moving like a big baby. And then for some reason, Igor lights up a match
To smoke. But why the fuck is he smoking right now?
for this scene,
I mean, yeah.
just to get the fire. Because then, of course, turn monster, and then starts
choking.
choking Frobruca.
And then we're playing charades. And then we're playing charades. Charades.
And they do the whole thing.
Absolutely.
I thought they were gonna get it eventually, but no, they play out the entire.
This is what I mean with like the jokes, not like building up to the joke. They take their time. It's pretty cool. I love it.
And they finally figure out that he's saying sedative, and they get the monster down. And he's like, sedative.
Sedative.
And then this is also the moment that Frobruca figures out that it was actually Abby Normal's brain that is in there.
Yeah.
Are you telling me that I put an abnormal brain in a 6'7" Neanderthal monster, and he starts choking him, and then more charades.
3 words.
So good.
So good.
But luckily, the inspector comes and saves Igor.
He doesn't even need the knocker. He's knocking with his fucking arm. Kuh. Karate chop.
And then Frobruca's like, we just have to act normal. Everyone has to act normal. And his
I need
off.
yeah.
It just flies off.
I need to go change. I need a shower. Didn't he say that?
Something like that. We just all have to act normal. And then the next scene is him going, ha! Acting like completely crazy.
As he's drinking, he's taking drinks,
throwing darts. And yeah, it's like this dart scene that he has with this inspector who's asking him about, telling him that the villagers are concerned that he's going to continue his grandfather's work and all this kind of stuff, and he's obviously completely denying it like a crazy person. But, I mean, the officer, after being a terrible sport, is left like, okay, I'll let the villagers know.
I believe you.
I believe you. You have no intention of doing anything. Okay, that's fine. Frobruca finds the monster and realizes that this whole thing that she set up worked, because what we find on the next scene is she's the one who's been playing the violin and left the book out for him to find and wanted him to continue Victor's work. Her lover's work. And Victor was her boyfriend.
Yes!
He was my... Which, again, that word is feels so out of place in this scene.
Well, because when you think about it, older people... I mean, now it's changing nowadays, but back in the day, you were married. You wouldn't say, I have a boyfriend, at that age.
Exactly.
So it's to have a lover and to say proudly, they're your boyfriend, I think that's what they were trying to, establish.
Yeah. But she sets the monster free. She sets Victor's work free, and he's off on his own little adventure now. Which, he's learning the world a little bit.
And, this is when we see he's not a terrible guy.
No.
He's a creature, and he's scary, naturally, but he's not terrible.
And it's interesting the people that he meets up with, because the first person that he runs into is a little girl who children, I think, inherently see the best in people and see the good in everyone, or assume that everyone is good. So it's a perfect person for him to meet up with, because that's just a person to play with now.
And it will teach you how to be gentle, because children are inherently innocent. And they're small.
Yeah.
So it's not hard to break them, especially for a 6 to 7 foot tall, however fucking his weight is.
Yeah.
So.
And they were just kind of throwing little flowers into the well. But luckily, Frankenstein monster helps her get into the room on that teeter-totter.
Absolutely.
Immediately to sleep.
Immediately
to sleep. Which, I know this scene is it's a parody of a scene that's in the original Frankenstein, where the monster gets out and he comes across a little girl who's throwing flowers into a river, and the monster starts to throw flowers with her, but then they run out of the petals, and the monster ends up picking up the girl and throwing her into the water and killing her. And so, no. But, I mean, yeah, it is a little bit.
Well, this is what she says, too. She's like, oh, we ran out of petals. Yeah. What do we do? What else do we throw in? And then he, looks at the camera.
Should I? Should I?
And we don't. No,
Good.
We throw her right into the bedroom.
Because I think you're right. Deep down, he's a good guy.
There's
a good soul in there. And then his next meetup is with the old, lonely, blind guy.
The
priest?
Yeah,
I think he was a blind priest.
Or preceptor, whatever he is.
He's just praying, dear Lord,
dear God,
please send me a company.
A company.
Thank you, my Lord. Amen.
I didn't realize that he was blind until he grabbed his cane and he did the whole...
Yeah. And again,
Can't see
another interesting person that for him to meet up with, someone who can't actually see him, see that he's hideous, and see that he's this monster. This is a lonely person that just wants company, someone to talk to. And he didn't even need him to talk. That was the first thing that he said. He was like, don't talk, don't talk.
Don't talk. And then, but then he like was like, oh, you're a mute. I'm so sorry, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And
then it just goes through another just great physical comedy scene of
just moment
just
after moment after moment.
Tries to serve him soup. He serves it in his lap. He tries to give him wine, and then
he's like, finally, yes, I get to enjoy something.
Breaks his cup.
And then he eye rolls. He's like, ugh.
Yeah. I like how this monster has a little bit of a personality.
Yeah, he's like, ugh.
And then tries to light the cigar, lights his thumb, and his thum's like on fire for a second. He's like,
Ah! And I was like, oh, he's not feeling it because obviously he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
But this character teaches him how to see fire as a good thing.
Mm.
He's like, fire is good.
Yeah.
Fire is our friend.
It's the first time that he's not reacting in a terrified way, and he gets close to the fire. This blind guy, he's not a very good date.
Absolutely not.
But, you're right. This is the first moment where he can get close to the fire, and, I mean, it ultimately hurts. It does hurt him. But, yeah.
Yeah.
You can at least see that he can learn, maybe.
Yes.
But he busts out of there.
He busts out of there, breaks through the door, and then
love all the doors he's breaking through. It's great.
Our friend, the blind priest, was like, "Wait, come back! I was just about to make espresso."
I do not want to be around when that guy's making espresso. Who knows what he'll do?
Maybe that's why.
Boiling hot.
I mean, it's sad because it's not his fault. He's blind.
It is sad.
Not.
Well,
but
it's also not the monster's fault that he's hideous and perceived to be evil. It's kind of like, again, this is a perfect person for him to meet up with. Because they're almost the same.
Yes, because he is unintentionally hurting him. Because of his limits of him being blind, he's hurting him. Mm-hmm. And then he can't communicate to him, hey, you're hurting me. Stop this, or here, let me guide you.
And the monster is unintentionally scaring people just by the way that he looks. Mm-hmm. And the way that the other monster that was made by Victor is perceived. So they assume that he's going to be exactly like that other monster. Yeah. And so he has this stigma already on him. This next scene, too, is them with a violin trap, where they're
playing that same
song, drawing him in, and then eventually getting him in a net. And,
tranquilizing him.
I think that music, too, like the fact that he is attracted to music kind of does show that, again, he does have some good in him.
There's some
he can be soothed.
Tenderness to him.
He likes the music. It makes him feel good, which I think an ultimately evil monster wouldn't be attracted to music like that. And so
tames his little heart.
Tames his big ass heart.
Oh yeah, right. Everything is
huge.
Big.
But then they end up getting him captured again, and they have him trapped in the cell. And Frobruca is like, "All right, I'm gonna go in there, and I know that there is good inside of him. I'm going to get it out.
We need to teach him that he's loved.
Yes, we need to teach him.
That's what he's missing.
Yes, and no matter how hard I cry, no matter what I say to try to convince you to
how much I slam this door,
do not let me out of here.
Do not, under any circumstances.
Do not let me out." And he goes in, and he's like, the monster's like asleep, and he's like kind of creeping up to him. And he trips over something, and he wakes up.
The table. Oh, please, let me out of here. Please, please let me out.
I'll bash your fucking heads in. He didn't say fucking, but he wanted to. Help me.
Help me. Mommy.
Oh my god. But I also love the way that he finally soothes the monster is, "Hey, handsome.
Hey, handsome.
Hey, you're a good
looking guy."
The monster's like looks behind him. Like, me? Like literally the way that he gets through to him is just flattering.
Yeah. It's like, hey, yeah. Everybody hates you.
Yeah.
But it's because they're jealous.
Yeah, they're all jealous of you.
You're a good boy.
Talk about physical specimen.
An Olympic champion.
Olympic ideal. And it's almost like he's convincing the monster for sure, but he's also like then convincing himself too.
That it can work.
Yeah, then he starts to talk about how they all just view you as a monster, but I know that there's good inside of you, and he shows him some love for just a second.
Instead of you
don't want to be a bad guy.
You don't want to be a bad guy. And it is like him talking to himself. And instead of in a kid, you know how like you put your child like on your lap and you're like talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
He is on his lap.
Yeah, that's where he ends up, on his lap.
I think he's just like
yeah. He's like, the creature like breaks down and cries because Frobruca
is showing him tenderness.
And saying that I know that you don't want to be. He says, "I know you want to be a good boy.
I know you want to be a good boy."
This is a mother's son, and he just cries because he's right. He doesn't want to be perceived as a monster. He just wants to be loved, and accepted for who he is, which is like okay, wow, this movie's like actually
and there's a line that he says at the end of like when you don't receive love, you want to instill fear. I think it's funny that yes, eventually he like finds love in a woman, but at this moment he's being loved by another man, like being tenderized, but like a dad figure.
Or almost some other figure.
Where
he is like, because he's even saying like, you're a good mother's boy, and he's like showing him tenderness and like holding him while he's crying, which is a very mothering thing to do. Mm-hmm. He is essentially being a mother to him. And that's essentially what he is. Because he did create him. Yeah. So it's interesting though that there is that kind of role reversal though. Yeah. That he's becoming a parent. And it's now thinking about the monster's journey through this movie, it's kind of a growing up movie for him. He's now like just a little boy, like being held by his mother. Then he becomes more of a man when he meets a woman and has sex for the first time. And then by the end, he's like a full-grown, like smart man. Dude reading the newspaper. Like this monster's like grows up through this movie. And it starts here. If I only had a brain. If I only had an abnormal brain. Dr. Frankenstein, are you okay? It's Frankenstein. He finally accepts his name.
Accepts his fate.
Accepts his fate.
Destiny.
Oh, this is destiny. Exactly.
This film is great.
Yes.
So great.
And now we have a little theater performance to unveil the monster to the world, show him to the world, and how great that he can actually be. And
somebody hisses at him when he first.
Yeah, he walks out and someone's.
And he's like, he takes that moment. He's like, okay.
Because he's obviously not liked. Because of, his family history. Immediately.
People laugh when he's like, reanimate skin tissue. And they're like, ah! It's like, you guys saw this before. This is a reason why you guys hate the Frankenstein.
Right. Yes.
But they laugh.
Mm-hmm. And we get this, nice little demonstration that goes from very simple motor movements to a full-on tap dance, which is always amazing.
He's cultured, everybody. He's cultured.
He's a man about the town. This tap dance gets the whole crowd on the side.
Oh, absolutely. Great.
Amazing. And then the light pops, which scares the creature, but the creature doesn't like... He kind of like freaks out for a second, but then he doesn't really do anything to hurt anybody. He just stops dancing.
Yeah.
And then
And people start throwing lettuce.
they're immediately like, what the fuck?
Where are they getting this lettuce?
Oh, they brought it. They're
But, like-
hoping that they can use it. They wanted him to fail.
But the thing, look,
Or maybe the theater provided it.
here's some tomatoes and lettuce.
5 cents. He didn't even do anything. They're just like, you've stopped entertaining us. Now you suck.
Yeah,
And then they immediately just turn on him.
absolutely.
And then they like rush the stage and take him to prison, and they got him all chained up.
He jumps down and then he goes and tries to hurt people, but there's more of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they all lift him up and he's like,
Yeah, he's just overpowered by all the
Yeah.
cops. And they take him to the cell where he's got all these chains.
all these chains. Oh,
poor little
such
baby.
as Dr. Frankenstein.
Frodrick
Frodrick
is sad and
Is sad. He's chained like a beast in a cave.
chained
Like,
like a beast in a cave. Yeah, he's so he's so dramatic.
yeah, because they're both of their heads were just like,
Yeah,
it's
it's so overdramatic. And then she's just like, I just wish there was something I could do to make you feel better.
She's kissing every finger,
Mm-hmm.
every knuckle. And then she puts his hand on her chest, and he was like, oh. All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
Back to the lab.
Do-do-do-do-do.
To the lab.
Do-do-do-do-do.
And then, the next scene is they hooked up.
Yeah,
Obviously,
smoke.
they start smoking. They descend from the
Yeah.
platform, which
After
that's actually like a pretty cool spot. Nice little hiding spot.
cold.
Cold. It's outside,
They literally only had like a sheet.
and it's probably raining because it's always raining.
Always raining.
Yeah.
In Transylvania.
Yeah.
But what's her face comes over.
Yeah. Frobruca. And who is about to get here?
Your fiance.
Your fiance, Elizabeth.
In a couple of seconds.
Yeah, she'll be here. Yeah, in a couple minutes, she says, or something. You better put on a tie.
You better put on a tie. Inga is not concerned.
Yeah, when she shows up, she seems like pretty chill.
Pretty excited to meet her.
Yeah, because obviously she's introduced as his fiance and financier, and they're all over each other, Frodrick and Elizabeth, and she's just standing there, like, pretty unaffected by that.
No, she actually was about to share that they had just, I guess, hooked up intellectually.
Yeah, we've had many intellectual conversations.
Actually, we just have one not too
We just
long
had
ago.
one downstairs. Little power surge? Interesting. Okay.
I'm a little scared.
I mean, he wants to have sex, but she's like, no, not totally.
He just had sex,
I know. Dog.
which is cool. All right, cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Why not? But also, he doesn't because she wants to wait
Yeah.
for the wedding night.
Until the wedding.
And then he leaves the room and she's singing, which I think that's what attracts the monster
Oh.
to come to her room. Because she's like,
Yes.
she's like brushing her hair and singing super loud. She's super into herself. And the monster comes and snatches her up.
My next line on here says boys are supposed to play with fire. I think that is a a line that the officer said. They're meeting right outside the town hall. All the rioters are there, and he's like, "Yeah, riots are ugly. It's about time we have one."
Yeah.
Yeah. So he is encouraging the riot.
Yes. The inspector is now leading this riot that is searching for the monster who's broken loose from the prison, and it's at the same time that he's then going and taking Elizabeth from the castle and finding a nice little secluded
Tuck
spot.
away a little area.
Little smoky outside area. And,
Well,
he's got a lot to offer.
he insinuates that he's about to rape her.
Yes.
But then it's not until she sees his instrument
His huge dick.
where she was like, you know what?
Okay.
It's not all that bad.
Yeah.
And then she sings for him as
Yeah.
they're having sex.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he likes
the
that.
one that I want. Or something like that.
Yeah, they're a classic old violin trap. They're on top of the castle, just playing the music into this big speaker.
Yeah.
And the monster shows up.
Yeah, he like climbs over.
Up the wall. And at first I was like, they could just let him in the door. But then like I realized, because he gets towards the top and they're about to help him, but Frobruca is like, no, don't help him. He wants to do it by himself.
Yeah, because he goes like a child.
And he's climbing up, growing up, he just had sex, like he's like he's doing things on his own now. He doesn't have to rely on his parents, Frobruca, to baby him anymore. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he's changing and becoming like a little adult now.
A little tall adult.
And pretty much they get him over the wall and they sedate him. They give him a sedative. And but then they say, is the brain transfusion process ready? He's like, Igor's like, are you sure you want to do this, master?
I can't kill you.
It could be the death of you both. It's the only way to save him. They're hooked up on these boards. They have both their brains hooked up to another machine. And it's a brain transfer. Oh, they call it a brain transference. So, but of course, the villagers show up using the inspector as a battering ram to get into the doors, just through multiple doors, every door.
They just.
And he's like, oh!
Imagine just going up the stairs that they needed the candle for.
Yeah.
And they're just going up the stairs with him.
And of course they break in and stop the process like 3 seconds before it's supposed to fully work. So Frobruca just like passed out on the table, and they're like the villagers are about to like take his body, and I don't know, do God knows what to it.
Yeah.
And then the monster for the first time stands up. Stop! Put that man down!
He speaks so eloquently.
So nice.
Yeah,
and he's making the speech about what Frobruca did for him, which is kind of what we've been talking about this whole time. Is he showed me that I wasn't just a monster. He showed me love, and he showed me that I can be more than just what people perceive me as. Mm-hmm. And that like gets to everyone's heart, because how couldn't that?
Yeah,
it's like a universal thing. Like we all want to be accepted.
Yeah,
and Frobruca did that for him.
And then
they're left. The monster and Inga and Igor are all left standing over Frobruca's body, and they all lean down, listen for a heartbeat, and it cuts before he wakes up. But Frobruca and Inga are married.
Yeah, they're married.
Coming across the threshold, he's carrying her. Singing, right? Wasn't he singing as he came in?
Yeah.
And yeah, they just got married, and then there's this interesting moment where they're gonna consummate the marriage. But she's got to go get ready real quick, and she's in the bathroom and starts singing, and then
she tells him to hold on to his hat. So he's like taking stuff off. He's about to take his hat. He's like, "Oh, I'm holding on to my hat." And then she starts singing. He like switches to monster mode.
Yeah, he like becomes like catatonic and hypnotized like the monster was. Like he's drawn to the music.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go check in with our monster boy, and he's having a great life now. He's in bed. He's got Elizabeth as his wife.
Uh-huh.
He's reading the newspaper.
And she's in the bathroom. You can just like hear her. It's like, oh, don't you think that Daddy's
party for you was great? Did you like it?
He did it for you. Yeah. He wanted you to have a good time. Oh, please say that you had a good time. And it's like,
Yeah, he doesn't talk at all.
He's like, And then she's like, oh, I bought a new hamper. This is for this, and these are for the poo-poo undies. That got me.
The monster is just now in like mundane day-to-day life. Yep.
It looked like they've been married for a long time.
Yep. And she comes out with the classic Bride of Frankenstein hair.
Classic.
They're together.
And then she's like,
and he looks at the camera. This is my life now.
hey, she's a freak like me.
She's a freak like me.
Even though I'm totally grown up now.
I'm totally.
I'm a grown up monster.
Yes. Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
And then we cut back to Frobruca and Inga in bed, and he's still like kind of like that catatonic. He's like walking to bed like this, like that Frankenstein walk. And she
was like, yes.
She's like, there's this one thing that I never understood.
No, but he's going, and she's like, yeah, it was great, or something like that.
and she's like, there's this one thing that I never understood. If you gave him half your brain, what did he give to you? Again, another look to the camera. I found you.
Insinuating
Get it,
what?
Frobruca.
Hey.
Do it, boy. And then nice ending shot. How we started the movie. We're zooming out of the castle, saying goodbye to all of our friends.
Oh, goodbye, friends.
Goodbye. Happy ending.
Oh yeah, Igor is up there just like
he's like playing music.
Yeah.
Bye. Ending with some music.
Da.
All right, young Frankenstein.
All right.
Very
Young
cool.
Frankenstein.
Let's get to some smashing pumpkins.
Smash them pumpkins.
Smashing pumpkins.
Easy peasy. 5.
5 stars for Leslie. Wow.
Has everything I need. The humor holds up. That was one thing that we were concerned about. Just how well are these jokes going to hold up, in the sense that, like once we revisit these movies, old movies, they tend to have some misogynistic or insensitive topics and jokes. But no, I didn't. No, it's all very classic, and the jokes are referencing just each other's, just the whole horror genre, especially the Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only jokes that we get, besides boobs and a few other little sexual ones, but very harmless stuff.
It's not at anyone's expense, really.
No. And the callbacks,
mm-hmm.
The way they just, the script is wonderful, and it's very memorable.
It is, and timeless.
Timeless.
And I think, too, because the rating system that we're obviously rating this on is rating horror movies. And people still might be like, why is Young Frankenstein on this horror movie list? And
why is Leslie giving every single movie
that's
so
true.
far a 5?
Why are they watching such good movies? But I think that what I keep going back to is that this is still just the Frankenstein story. If you consider Frankenstein a horror monster movie, it had all that same thing. We're just adding another layer of comedy onto it. Mm-hmm. And so it is a comedy monster movie. And to me, the genre of comedy and the genre of horror can go hand in hand so well, because both those genres are trying to push you to extremes, whether it's horrified or laughing, And it's hard to do that in a film. It's hard to do both those things individually. So it almost just makes sense to me that there would be this crossover genre of horror comedy. Because we're just taking both ends of the spectrum and just putting them together. And I think that this movie does it so well. So it totally, to me, counts as a monster movie and deserves to be on this list for sure. And is a fantastic movie that holds up to me to this day still. Mm-hmm. And I'm also going to give it a 5 out of 5.
Hell yeah!
Because what can I fault it on? I really don't
Nothing.
know. I really can't. 5 little smashing pumpkins. And I think it's time for that time where we see what is in store for next week.
I don't know why I always forget that this happens, and I get really excited.
This is a very exciting time.
Do you want to pull?
I'll go.
Let's pull.
You go next week.
Yeah.
But I'm nervous because we've had some interesting ones so far.
Yes.
I'm just grabbing this one. All right, here it is. Here it is. All right, let's do what we got. We have Oh no, Leslie.
Oh no.
I'm sorry.
Oh, Saw.
It's Saw.
Oh no.
It's Saw.
No.
From 2004,
No.
directed by James Wan, written by James Wan and Lee Winnell. Two strangers awaken in a room with no recollection of how they got there, and soon discover they're pawns in a deadly game perpetrated by a notorious serial killer.
Is it the very first one?
It's the very first one.
Oh, God.
Classic.
How many Saw movies do we have in here?
Just
all
this
14?
one. No, just this one.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I didn't put any sequels to things because I didn't want us to pull out Saw 4 before Saw.
Oh, okay.
So maybe after we watch this, I'll throw Saw 2 in there.
Oh, that's smart. That's smart.
But I think we need to start with this one for sure. And wow.
I'm gonna cry.
Wow. Very different vibe.
Yeah.
Well,
all right.
let's get out of this episode, huh?
Stay tuned for tomorrow or
Yeah, tomorrow.
next week.
No, not this isn't the 31 days, Leslie.
Oh yeah, no.
This is
I'm
not
still
31.
in this mindset though.
Yeah, it's true.
Anyways, yeah. Until next time.
Till next time, plug yourself.
Instagram. Color me Leslie. Yeah. Say yeah.
And you can find me at BP Richie T, and also follow us at the Deadlights Pod on Instagram. Also check out Playground Social, which is the place that we are recording this at.
We're recording this right now.
Right now.
Right
But
now.
until next week,
Let's get spooky.
Frobruca!
Frobruca!
It's alive!